Oh, hello, today is July 16, 2024, and I will call to order the Madison Common Council Executive Committee meeting. Staff, can you please call the roll?
President Figueroa Cole.
Here.
Vice President Duncan.
Here.
Alder Govindarajan. Alder Conklin.
Present.
Alder Martinez Rutherford.
Present.
Alder Ugair. Present. Alder Harrington McKinney. Alder Curry.
Here.
You have quorum.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes from the July 2nd meeting. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to approve.
Second. Thank you, Engineer. Is there any updates, comments on regards to the last agenda? I'm missing something. Oh. Go. All right, I don't see any hands raised. Is there a issue recording a unanimous vote to adopt the agenda? To approve the agenda? I don't see any feedback, so we will record a unanimous vote for that. So the next item on the agenda are public comment. We don't have any public comment. No one in the room. Good. Okay. No, we don't have anyone registered. So we move to disclosures and recusals. Members of the body should make any required disclosures or recusals under the city's ethics code. Are there any disclosures or recusals for this meeting? Okay. I don't see any hands up, so let's move on with the items on the agenda. So the first item for consideration is agenda item 84213, 2025 Common Council Office Budget Request. Can I get a motion, please?
Motion to adopt.
Second by Alder. By NGR. Alrighty, so do we have any, can we please get a presentation from staff? Karen, can you share where we are on this particular topic?
Yes, so there are two budgets here. We've got the 99%, agencies were asked to give two budgets, right? The 99% cost to continue budget and a 5% reduction scenario budget. So if you remember from last time, we have the one budget, which I think it may be cleaner to move on that budget and then do a motion on the second budget separately, so I make sure to get it right. But 99% cost to continue. The only thing in there is a note about moving $5,500 from the Alder or not really moving, but designating or earmarking $5,500 from the Alder training budget for next year's budget engagement events, a series of multi-district budget engagement events in 2025. So that's not new money. That's just earmarking $5,500 from the 21,000 or so that we have in that pot. So that would be the one budget, the 99% cost to continue budget. And then I think the one that requires perhaps a little more discussion is, I'm going to see if I can pull up the right file here, is and this is attached to the, it just wants to save it. Wow. This is attached to the agenda as well. Let me just get this up. Is the memo that was sent out by President Figueroa Cole. One moment. Share. want to make sure I'm sharing the right thing. I believe this is correct. Let's see what we've got. Yes, great. Okay, so the 5% reduction scenario, which I presented at last, the last CCEC, looks like this. So I think this is the starting point, President Figueroa Cole, and then if folks want to make motions to change the components of the 5% scenario, or just want to move that this is our 5% cut scenario, I think that that's at the will of the body here.
So yes, so we also ask for people to connect with Finance and Karen to see if they wanted to make any of the additional changes to this proposal. So at this moment, do you have any questions for staff? And I see one hand open up, but I don't know whose hand that is.
It's Alder Harrington McKinney.
Got it. She's not, can you promote her? She's
Yes,
not the
please,
attendees.
media team, please promote Alder Harrington McKinney to panelist. Thank you.
Hi, Karen. I promoted Alder Harrington McKinney a couple times, and she went over to the panelists, but then went back to the attendees. So I'm not sure if she.
I think I'm now panelist.
Okay,
Okay.
perfect. Thank you. Thank you both.
It
So,
shifted me back
You're
and forth.
welcome.
Thank you very much. I appreciate
No,
it.
you're welcome.
thank you.
Okay.
So
I
Alder,
do have,
go ahead, Alder.
okay, thank you, Madam President. I do have a question where it says eliminate, and I'm almost afraid to enlarge anything because I might get lost again. It says reduce Alder expense account by 812. Thank you for enlarging that. $812 each. Was that, could you say more about that? Was that always in the bill of the budget, or that's part of the overall attempt to do the cost to continue?
Yes, so this is our 5% reduction scenario budget as opposed to the cost to continue budget. The cost to continue budget does not actually reduce Alder expense accounts at all. So this is the one where we were asked to create a scenario, right, where we cut 5%. And so this basically, you know, you have 1,900, this reduces you by 812 per Alder as a part of the way to get there. I can answer more specifics if you have more specifics for me, but
Okay.
it does not reduce this in the cost to continue budget, just to be clear.
Okay, so it's just a pathway that can be taken to respond to the cost to continue. So we're not approving anything, that this is just a pathway presentation. Am I correct? Please correct me if I'm not
Okay.
accurate.
Yeah, let me, I want to be real clear because since we're doing this, you know, these two budget scenarios, I think pretty much for the first time, it's a little confusing. The cost to continue budget, the 99% cost to continue budget does not include any of these cuts. So the 99 cost to continue budget will be fine with it. It doesn't require any of these kind of cuts. All these things that are listed in here will stay as they were last year, or as adjusted by our cost to continue. What we're looking at here is the second piece of this instruction to agencies, which is we needed to come up with how would we cut 5% from our budget. And as you know, we don't have a lot of non-personnel costs in our budget. So what that requires then is to do some cutting of the Alder expense accounts in order to get there. in this 5% reduction scenario. So we would be submitting, if you voted, so I'm asking for two motions tonight, two big ones. One, a motion to allow me to submit the 99% cost to continue budget, which is the one that does not cut any of these things, that, is basically just the cost to continue based on the 2024 budget. That's one motion. And then the second motion is, what do I do here with a 5% scenario? Do I submit a 5% cut scenario as you see it here? Do I submit a different set of cuts for a 5% cut scenario? Do I submit something different than a 5% cut scenario? Because as you know, the council office usually has the autonomy because they are kind of their own, I don't know how to say it, like, I don't know how to explain it. We're a different branch. We're not under the mayor's direct purview, so usually we've been able to have a little more leeway in what we do, how to answer the call. So you have some options here. I think if you just, maybe a part of it is talking through what you're thinking about doing, and we can see what we can do.
Okay, got you. I think you answered my question. This is just a pathway. This is a scenario more so than what is so. My other question, and I don't know if it's appropriate time to ask this question, but recently I had a scenario within District 20 where I was told that within the Alder budget, where there is mailings, and you can please correct me because I'm kind of stumbling in this, is that that dollar amount must be for mailings and cannot be used any other way. And so if an alder does not use that as mailings, where does that money land? What happens to that dollar amount? And I'm sorry, I was out of town, so I didn't get a chance to frame these in advance, and you may not have the answers, and I do apologize for that, but that's something that I definitely have a question about.
Yes, I can address some of that now. So in addition to your 1,900, you do have $650 earmarked. It's in the postage line item in our central budget. It's earmarked for, so that each of you is kind of reserved $650 for the cost of postage, because, other ways of doing it over the years, from what I understand, were more complicated. So instead, we put it all in there. The thing is, we get about, you know how a lot of times the meetings that alders have where they send postcards and so therefore pay postage are eventually reimbursed by developers. And so that money goes out through our central postage account because we process those, and then it comes back in from developers if it's reimbursed by developers. Otherwise, sometimes the alder will pay for postage for a town hall or something that's not easily reimbursed. And so then if you pay out of your postage account, we deduct that in our internal calculations from that $650. Now, it is a rule that has very much predated me by as long as anybody seems to be able to remember, that postage money, that the alder's $650 that is earmarked per alder for postage is to be used for postage only. Now, as far as I can understand, we checked with finance, and there doesn't seem to be a finance accounting regulation rule for that, but it seems to be something that the council imposed on itself, or CCOC, the predecessor to CCEC, imposed on itself many years ago. What that says to me is, and I don't know if now would be the time, or if you'd like to, investigate this further, it does suggest to me that if the council decided to amend that to sort of give itself permission to access that $650. The thing is, it gets a little complicated with our reimbursement, so I wouldn't want to do that without doing a little digging with finance and our budget analyst to make sure that we don't end up in trouble, because all our postage comes out of a central place. So, and reimbursements come in much later than they go out. So we need to have money centrally located for things to go out. So if you use your $650 on something else, and it doesn't exist in the books, then if you want to have a meeting that's going to be eventually reimbursed by a developer, we need to have the cash to be able to pay the postage, and then we bill the developer to get it back. So it would cause a little bit of some accounting kind of things that we would want to, maybe work out before we do anything different with that.
Okay, thank you. And my question really was a two-part question. And the reason I brought it up is that alders can either allocate monies for a assistant. I don't see that one in an intern. So we have the option of either allocating money for an alder intern, or internalizing and using those dollars as part of the alder budget. And there's flexibility there. My other part of the question, which I still don't get an answer, is that I normally, if a developer, I always ask the developer to, you're going to be responsible for paying for the cost of the postage. And I understand that, but my real question is that after all this is evolved and there is money left in an alder's account that was not used for postage, where does that money go? That's the part of the question that was not answered for me.
Okay, yes. So for your second question, all unused money, whether that's postage or training or any other category where we don't spend it all, goes back to the general fund at the end of each year. We don't get to roll over any unspent funds. And then to the question about interns, yes, that's correct. When the council authorized the money for to be prioritized for alder interns, which here it's the $5,000 on this line that I'm actually calling out for the 5% cut. That was stipulated as part of the arrangement that the council said that it would be prioritized for an intern, but could be used for other allowable expenses, i.e. any of the other expenses that are allowed in your $1,900 account, we can also use your intern money for. So that was the stipulation that was created in the budget when that additional $250 per alder was added to the budget by the council.
Okay, that's perfect explanation. Thank you. And so I am totally in agreement with that. The piece that, and I'm not trying to resolve it here, but just know that this is a question that I have. If an alder does not use the postage line item, it does not go back into usage by the council staff. It goes back into the general fund. Is that what I'm hearing?
All of the money that we don't use at the end of the year goes back into the general fund. We don't, the postage line item would be used for postage. And so it's a little complicated because we pay for all postage. All of the postage comes out of one line. So the office pays for all the postage from all the things that the alders send. Some of that postage will be reimbursed by developers, some will not. And so all of that comes out of the same postage line. If for some reason, but it's a little confusing too because the reimbursement comes in the revenue line. And so in the end, we don't ever go under in postage on the budget, because it's an accounting, it's complicated and it's kind of hard to explain on the fly without showing you, but.
Let's just put a pin in it because we have a lot of other.
But I guess I can say, Alder, I guess I can say I think maybe this is part of it. We don't, the council office does not look to spend the postage money on other things. It's really the postage that you all use to send your postcards, your newsletters, your other types of mailings.
Excuse me for interrupting, and I get that. So let's put a pin in it. So I'd like to have a further discussion, because if we're not using it and if there is excess, it goes back to the general fund. I would prefer if if somehow the council office had access to it, because since we're talking about a restriction of how we could, how we could best streamline the budget, you don't have a lot of fat in there. I mean, there's not a lot of flexibility in the common council budget. I get that. And I was just seeing if there was some kind of pathway that we can alter. So let's put a pin in that, because I don't want to use the executive committee meeting time to discuss that. That's something that I can, talk offline. So I'm good for now.
Thank you, Alder. Are there any other questions for staff about the proposal 5% cuts or the submission of the 99 cost to continue? I don't see any questions, so let me reframe this question again. So let me make sure that we're clear on what we're trying to do here. We will have, which I'm actually a little bit confused because we only have one resolution, right?
We only have one motion on the floor, motion to adopt, but there's not a space there as to what adopt. Maybe we can ask.
So we are going to adopt two separate things?
Yeah.
Okay, in one,
We can if we.
because
just
we
make
don't have
real
it,
clear.
we don't have a extra
Oh,
number
that's
for
true.
it,
Good point.
right?
Good point.
Okay, so this motion for the 2025 Common Council Office Budget Request includes the acceptance or direction to introduce two budgets to the mayor, one with a 99% cost to continue, and a second budget with a possibility of the 5% based on the cuts that were on the screen a minute ago. So we have a motion on the table to adopt. I don't see anyone else with any questions. So do you guys want to have discussion? Any other points that you want to discuss at this matter? That's okay, I got it. Okay, going once, twice, and three. I don't see any questions. So is there any objection to record a unanimous vote on this motion? Alder Govindarajan, and you are here. Click that.
What's the specific motion again?
Since we only have one agenda item,
I mean, we could make.
we're not gonna, we just,
It's fine.
can you make two motions?
It's
on one
okay,
agenda
yeah,
item?
I can do two motions in the same, but.
Okay,
But it's-
so the motion is to submit to the mayor the cost to continue, the 99 cost to continue, and a second budget with a 5% reduction.
Okay, thank you.
Okay,
No objection.
no objection on that? Are we good with that then? So I don't see any other questions or raised hands. So we'll consider this a pass by unanimous vote.
So we do basically all the things. I'm
Yeah,
submitting that as
5%.
my 5%.
Yeah, and the
I'm doing
99.
90%. Okay.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
There you go. Stressing over nothing. So with that, we move on to the next agenda item. And that is agenda item number 3, 83-516. I don't know if anyone has had time to go and figure out what is coming up on the next few weeks to chair. I'll give you a minute to raise your hand if you want to chair something from your committees. Okay, so I don't see any hands up, so I'm going to go ahead and share one important thing that is coming up, and we all know August 20th, right?
Yes.
August 20th, we have a special meeting to finalize the language on the referendum. The finance director will be giving us a presentation today at the council meeting, and we'll have some additional information about that upcoming meeting. So that, I think that is something that if you guys can definitely promote in your blogs, that would be great.
It's 5 o'clock.
Sorry? Okay, someone said something, I don't know. So the next Alder Conklin?
Yes, thank you, Madam President. And I don't know if I heard you say it or not, but that meeting is virtual, correct? The August 20th meeting is virtual.
That is correct. The intent
Okay.
of the meeting, it was a notice on the agenda with the intent to have public comment collected on the August 6th meeting and in the finance meeting prior to that, so people can provide their feedback during those two meetings. And then for the August 20 special meeting, the ask will be to discuss and to take action. On a
And do
virtual-
we know, thank you. And do we have a starting time for that? Is that the same as a council meeting, 6:30 starting time?
It's at 6:30.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you for those questions, Alder Conklin. Okay, so that moves us into agenda item 81-382, which is the council office updates.
Thank you very much. It's a brief one today. Working on obviously the big thing is to get the budget scenarios and that work done by Friday. The turn-in date is Friday, so I'll be working on that. Just the regular things. It's a number of people are out, so keep an eye on our staff vacations so that you can plan ahead. A couple of tips and reminders again. The president mentioned the virtual council, the special council meeting. I also would like to remind folks in the room, when you're here, if you're here in person for the council meeting, you'll have that new form that says I'd like to be added as a sponsor, and you can just write your name and the items that you would like to be added to. So it's a real simple way to get yourself added. You can also email me and I'll get the clerk, I'll get everything to the clerk on duty. I provided, again, in this update, a little tutorial on how to request anything from IT. Frankly, it could be anything, but also specifically with the focus that since I know folks will be out of town, and some folks will be leaving the country for their vacations, that you do need to put in, a request to IT so that if you'd like to access your city logins while you're abroad, they can do some special permissions. So I have a little instructions on how you can do that yourself through EmployeeNet. You can also ask us to help you with that. And then, of course, I'm highlighting these trainings again, and I want to say that I really would like it if alders did have the time, or if they were interested, if they could try some of the trainings that the city offers, and to let me know if they were effective, if they thought that they would be effective for their colleagues, if it's something we could pursue as maybe a special training during onboarding or other times of the year. I would love your feedback. We have had a number of alders here and there, and some folks will let me know, and I do find that very useful. So we have trauma-informed living, gender-inclusive language, plain language and effective communication. That one's not coming up for a while, but it's on the list. I think that these are topics that folks may find useful in their communicating with constituents, and I just want to recommend it. We also have how to, the first one, sorry, I'll pull that back up, involving people in decisions that impact them. And so, which it has been, this training in some version or another has been around for a while, and I do think it's worth it. It looks at sort of identifying stakeholders and that sort of thing. I think we just got an announcement, but I couldn't get it on the list, that there's a new, maybe a conflict de-escalation, communication improvement training as well that HR, I think, has just put out. I'll double check when I get a chance. I do think that those are really helpful for alders, and I want to acknowledge that, Alder Curry had recommended that we put together a list of recommended trainings for new alders so that they can build them into their plan for onboarding, which I think is a wonderful idea, and certainly will do that. So I just want to put a plug there, just because, again, being alder, it's a multifaceted job that you're doing for us, a service that you're providing for the city, and trainings do give some tools and maybe some reminders and all kinds of things. So that's why I spend so much time on it. Thank you.
Alder Harrington McKinney, do you have a question for Karen?
Yes, Karen. You had mentioned gender inclusive language, will that be incorporated in the standard Alder onboarding?
That's a great question. I really appreciate that. So there's a couple of different angles I'm going to take, and I'm going to start sort of investigating with Christy Kumar. So one is I'm going to add that to the list of highly, strongly recommended trainings for new alders. That one, and then there's other inclusive workplace policy related that I think will be helpful for folks. But Christy Kumar, I would like to, and I let her know I'm going to start having this conversation with her and with HR about what kind of a custom training we can create that helps go through the code of conduct and the the elected and the elected official code of conduct and help in a more systematic way. So I'm planning on starting those conversations soon, and then hopefully we can fold that in on an ongoing basis for folks as they're coming in.
I think both of those, and so my vote is for both of those to be included, not optional, but in the onboarding, especially the one I mentioned, and then also the code of conduct as well.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions on this item? Okay. Thank you, Karen. So then next Legistar item is 78-125, future agenda items. So we have received a couple of things that we actually are already on future agenda. They're already on future agendas, such as the BCC's updates that is coming early September. We have had Isaac and Karen and the mayor's office working real hard to get a presentation together, demonstrating or offering a pathway on how to determine how we can improve the BCCs and how to have the process move through to merge or to update the existing BCCs. So that is in progress. We're still also working on the questions and answers from the budget engagement. That is also coming up shortly. And I want to add a couple of things to the conversation from before where we're talking about training. Cassandra Hill has still space on the calendar for all of us to update you or to train you on things from Office 365. So if you haven't had the time to either drop in or to check in on a Zoom call, on a Zoom meeting, please do so. And I don't want to put this person out. I don't want to whatever, but I'm pretty sure that if none of those things work for you and you have specific questions about Office 365, she will be more than happy to answer them for you. I went to one of them already. I learned a couple of new things. So I think they're pretty useful. And on that note, again, around training, I personally put a blog out last week, I think it was, I remember, about Legistar, and wanted to highlight that on the sense that it's Legistar is not a tool that has a lot of functionality on it, but it does help the public keep up to date on the things that we're discussing on the council. They can create an account, very simple, just create an account and then determine what kind of things are interesting for them to follow. So the same can apply for others. If you want notifications on liquor licenses, for example, or on appeals or specific items that you're interested in keeping track of, you can set up an alert and then you will get an email with that information. So check out that blog, which is part of extra training if you guys want to take advantage of that. So on that note, again, if you have any other questions, please let me know. Did you have, and thank you to those that have sent us suggestions for upcoming agendas. If you have any other upcoming agenda items that you want to add today, please chime in. Well, with that said, there's nothing else here. This was a very short agenda. Please take this time to maybe relax a little bit before the upcoming meeting. It's going to, most likely going to be a long night. With that said, I will get a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
And second, so thank you. With that, we are, is there any opposition to record unanimous vote for adjournment? I don't see any, so that we are adjourned. Thank you. See you guys later.